Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the show. This time on release notes 5.3. So this is only today. So Forrest is on vacation. So enjoy your vacation, Forrest. And so it's just going to be Jake and I. So 5.3, we touched it a little bit last time. So you kind of talk to us about some of the features that were coming, and yeah, now we have them, right? So Jake, tell us what's new in 5.3.
Quite a few things. The major enhancement that we'll talk about and dig into today is project-based runner management, which just went into early access, and a couple of new PagerDuty plugins, as well as an enhancement to our default SSH node executor, or actually our file copier plugin that allows for using SFTP for transmitting files to execute scripts on remote nodes instead of SCP, which is just another protocol for secure file transfer. And then a whole bunch of fixes, whether that's CVEs or bugs or performance fixes as well. So lots to talk about, and see links in the chat to go into the docs. But want to call out real quick that the release was a good collaboration between us on product, but also one of our solutions consultants who contributed to the PagerDuty plugins. Shout out to Dave Darby, who produced those plugins and then did some touch-ups, aesthetic touch-ups on the rest of the PagerDuty plugin suite. So real great contribution there. So yeah, that's the high level. Should we just dig into the release notes themselves?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
All right. So right at the top, right, project-based runner management, which we'll dig into in a demo in a moment. Right in the forefront there, you see a link to signing up for the early access. So we'll put that in the chat. So the new PagerDuty job step plugins are the ability to invoke PagerDuty incident workflows, which is great, either as part of the job itself or perhaps more importantly, to use it as what we call a notification plugin, which is a little bit of a kind of a confusing name at this point, given how kind of broadly scoped we've made that type of plugin. But a notification plugin can trigger when a job starts, when it fails, when it succeeds, when it's running longer than expected. And so this is actually really critical. I mean, we'll take the example of if a job is running longer than expected, you might have some data transfer, data pipeline job running on a schedule in Runbook Automation. And if it's running longer than expected, or if that job fails, you don't necessarily just want to create an incident. You might want to create an incident, but then also kick off an incident workflow that puts together a Zoom channel or a Zoom room and a Slack channel and notifies all the right people, maybe updates your status page. Could be all sorts of things put into PagerDuty incident workflow. So it's automation calling on other automation, which is really neat.
Yeah, cool. And this is actually something that so from incident workflows you could actually trigger an automation action, and it's something that I would like use often when I was kind of showcasing the power of automation to customers, but you didn't have, so it wasn't easy to do like the reverse, right?
Right.
And so now it's easier through these plugins, to these job steps that you just mentioned. That's great to see. Yeah.
Right. And it's tied in with the PagerDuty project level or system level integration configuration. So you can set your configuration on a per project basis, or for an entire for the entire Runbook Automation instance, and then you don't have to set your configuration, your credentials, your API key on a per job basis. So it's all tightly integrated there. Here's the SFTP option. Pretty straightforward. One thing I'll call out, and this was brought to our attention a little while ago, but not too long ago, was that according to Red Hat, SCP is not as secure as SFTP, and so a number of security professionals would just prefer to use SFTP. It's just a little bit more secure. And so including that as part of our out-of-the-box default file copier plugin was necessary. And so you have the option now. You can use either one. When using that plugin, you can leave all of the rest of the configuration the same. But just now when you're executing a script on a remote node and you're using basically SSH as the protocol, now it'll use SFTP as the mechanism for first transferring that script as a file to the remote node and then executing it.
Okay, so we are basically just setting up a more secure default option for executing these file transfers, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
But like I said, as it says here, we'll continue to support SCP for this foreseeable future. We have no plans on deprecating that. It's really just a matter of preference for. I shouldn't say it's a matter of preference. I mean, most people would say that SFTP is more secure, but for some folks, for some environments, it's not as major of a concern. It wasn't marked as a critical vulnerability.
Yeah.
So a number of other additional updates here. We'll continue on the security front. There's some CVEs. One point I'll point out here was that some plugin properties that you might set at the system level weren't handled, quote unquote, as secrets, and so we wouldn't encrypt them once you had set them. And so now that is the behavior. So you can paste in your secret, but then we will automatically encrypt them and you won't see them in plain text. A number of fixes, they're not called out necessarily here, but a little bit lower down on some bug fixes regarding users and users in the user namespace of the product that were using LDAP. There were some case sensitivity bugs, as well as some instances where usernames were showing up as duplicates, and that kind of had to do with the case sensitivity as well. So a number of bug fixes there that you'll see called out regarding users logged from LDAP are duplicate, things of that nature. We now have a configurable log size viewer limit. So for those of you who have ever created a ginormous log in Rundeck, you'll see this like whale icon that says that's a whale of a log. And there was no way to say like that's okay. Like my system can handle a log file of a given size, and I want to be able to configure that so I can actually see this large log file in the GUI. That is now configurable. So again, number of fixes, including for Ansible as well. And again, back to our contributors, shout out to Dave Darby for contributing the PagerDuty plugins. All right, so we'll dig into the product and actually talk about project runner management. And before showing some of the functionality, I'll set the context here, which is that when we initially released the automation runner, the enterprise runner, the vanilla archetypal use case was to be able to execute jobs or remote node execution in environments that Runbook Automation, whether it was cloud or self-hosted, didn't have direct access to, right? Customers were using a jump host or a bastion host to securely and as secure as they could get Rundeck or Runbook Automation to execute in environments that it did not have direct access to, which makes perfect sense. It's a polling mechanism, so you don't have to poke holes in your firewalls or create more complex network configuration policies. And so we've had the runner out for about 2+ years now, give or take. And what we've found is that many customers are using the runner as a way to give their disparate teams, their multiple teams, effectively their own, for lack of a better term, runtime environment for their automation. And since the beginning, you've been able to associate a runner with a project or multiple projects. And so what we've seen our customers doing is that the tool admin will create a runner and assign it to a single project, and then let the team that uses that project install it where they need to, and then install whatever binaries or dependencies they want on their runners so that they can run their automation, which many times is Python scripts or PowerShell scripts, or a certain particular version of Ansible or what have you. And this system works great, but what we found is that this use case of giving teams an independent runtime environment has become more and more popular, and it makes a lot of sense. It's like you're giving each team their own run deck without that team having to manage the entire run deck platform.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a great way to kind of balance between having a centralized, standardized platform, but still giving each team some great deal of flexibility and autonomy. So we wanted to double down on this use case because we see it as extremely valuable. So to accommodate that, let me make this bigger, we released project-based runner management. And so what this allows our users to do is, within the context of a project, which is where I'm at right now, users can create runners, manage their runners, download and then deploy them where they would like, without that dependence on the tool admin of Runbook Automation. And so they have, again, like full autonomy and control over the runners for their particular project. And so that's what we're looking at here, right? So in the context of a project, I've got a couple of runners. One is new, so I haven't actually deployed it yet. The other it's up and running. I might be in a project for store infra operations if I'm a retail business, or fast food chain, for example. And now I have full control over these runners. And the trick here is that when I create a runner in the project context, so maybe this will be for my Santa Barbara runner. That's where I'm located. So we'll give it the SBA acronym there. So now this runner is created in this project, and it's not associated with any other project. So if I'm going to hop over to, say, network infra operations, and I go into runner management here, we don't see those runners, right? We see different teams runners, and this might be that runners that are in the data center that the network infra team is responsible for. And so again, it's like this separation of concerns and between the project admin and the tool admin and the users within the project being able to say, okay, we're going to install this runner here. We might install it on a Windows system and give it some PowerShell dependencies so that we can do Windows automation, or again, some special binaries to do to connect to point of sale systems, a POS device in a storefront, so on and so forth. The tool admin still has full control over the system, though. And so if we go to runner management at the system level, we can see
all of them.
Exactly. We can see runners across all projects, and I can still manage them. And I can, at the system level, I can choose to associate this runner with another project as well. And so actually, let's run through that use case. So let's say I'm responsible for our retail storefronts, and I install a runner, Market Street in San Francisco, and it's just my team's runner at this point. So we have full control over it. And so you can see when I go to manage it, I have the options to delete this runner. I can edit the runner. I can download it, etc. But let's say now another team comes on board to Runbook Automation, and this could be the network infra team. And now there's shared responsibilities between these two teams for the storefronts, for the network infra within the storefronts. And so now it makes sense that the network infra team should be able to make use of this runner within their project, not necessarily to manage it, but to actually use it. So at the system level here, what I'll do is, as the tool admin, I'll be able to, let me say network ops. Let's add this runner to that project now. So now when I go into network ops, I see the SFO Market Street runner. So I can make use of that in my jobs. But now the more important piece here, right, again, is in terms of shared resources versus individual resources, or I should say dedicated resources, is that now within these individual projects, you'll see that my level of management for this runner has decreased because it's now a shared resource. So now someone on the store ops team can't, do something to this runner that would impact another team that is dependent on that runner.
Yeah.
So we've tried to go to great lengths to make this, the separation of concerns and the consideration of shared versus dedicated resources. We've tried to make that a priority. So along those lines, we've added a number of new ACL policies so that you can declare which users can create runners at a project level, manage runners at a project level, and on which particular project per project basis. Again, we think of, within a given team, there's users that are admins of the project. That might be your team lead or your team manager, or just your more tenured individuals on the team. And then you have your job authors, your job users, and then you have your tool admin. And so we don't want to give the right granularity of ACL policies to handle for those different profiles.
Yeah, definitely. It does make sense. And so previously you had someone that would manage like process automation or manage the tool, right? And they would need to kind of be the ones deploying the runners independent of, and potentially they wouldn't be even the ones managing the environments, right? And so there would be like a lot of challenges doing so. And by doing this, it's not only the fact that you basically you become responsible for managing the runners in the environments that you run, but you also, like the last use case that you showed us, where you can give access, but you cannot like download the runner and you'll not be able to deploy it with like a different set of configurations is really important and really useful. Cool. This is good. And one thing that I would like to mention here as a very small call out, but it's really important, is the fact that you base this decision on like a real use case that you identified, right, in several customers, and basically you kind of identified the pattern and you are solving a real problem, right? And you are building a product based on that. And this is not only my feedback, it's actually so we just received a message here on the chat, it's really good to see some of our like users actually seeing this as a good thing that you are adding to the product. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and a really nice comment in the chat there to highlight. What I'll kind of reiterate that maybe I'll just say it for the first time actually, is that what we're seeing is that our customers, there's this wide spectrum that exists between centralized control and enforcing standards, and then flexibility and autonomy for all of the disparate teams. And what we find is that there's this spectrum that on a per customer or per team basis, our customers lie on this kind of on this band of centralized control versus autonomy. And we think that we can accommodate this kind of full spectrum, whether that central team might download the runner for you, and then you as the team lead can install it where you want, or the tool admin might actually host the runner for you and provide the runner basically as part of the automation as a service. So you don't have to worry. You're not thinking about managing runners. But again, on this other side, we have enterprises with numerous teams that are using the product, and the tool admin doesn't know and doesn't want to know what each team is using their runners for, right? Not that they're using it for nefarious activities, but it's just like each team has their own niche set of responsibilities and therefore automation dependencies. And so, we think that we are excited to accommodate all of these types of customers.
Yeah, definitely. You are not locking into a specific approach. You are basically allowing all these different approaches to take place, which is
right.
great.
So it's fully backwards compatible with how the system works today. So as mentioned, there's the early access sign up form. Any customer that requests access, we will engage and send you instructions on how to enable it. So it's not really gated. We just want to know who is trying it out so that we can proactively get feedback. So it's in early access, so it's an initial release. There's at least one rough edge that we are going to smooth out in our next release. So still consider it beta, but I'd say that it is still quite feature rich already. How are we doing on time? What if we wanted to cover other pieces? We certainly can.
Yeah, we have time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I will, before moving away from the runners, I'll mention that in our upcoming next couple of releases, there will also be some significant enhancements to the distributed automation product area. So I encourage attendees to stay tuned as well. So those enhancements will be along the lines of a few things. One is time to value for getting up and running with Runbook Automation. The other is managing runners in a more seamless way. The other is just abstracting away the runner from job authors and job users, which is a common piece of feedback that we've received. But then potentially more exciting and more important is, we've seen customers looking to tackle more and more sophisticated use cases with Runbook Automation. I'll give a clear example of kind of simple versus complex when it comes to distributed automation. And on the simple side, so to speak, is the ability to restart a service, kind of the classical incident response use case. In that use case, you're going to target a single system, and you kind of know what endpoint you're going to interact with. But as we're seeing more and more customers looking to use Runbook Automation for whether it's deployments or patching across multiple environments, they want to be able to target numerous environments concurrently. And so I'll just hint at the fact that we're going to tackle that use case. I'm a little biased, but I would say we're going to tackle it quite elegantly. So that's the foreshadow of what's to come.
Yeah. Cool. Just before we move on, Jake, one thing. So I just added to the chat basically a form that you can for our listeners that you can just sign up for the updates on release notes. So apart from the live stream, you can also get it on your email directly. So just stay up to date. So, yeah, you can go on.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I can quickly show just the very quick where to find the new file copier option. Yeah. So in your default file copier, when you go to the SSHJ, you can use SFTP now. The PagerDuty plugins you'll see as options within the workflow steps or in the notification plugin settings. So those are a little bit more straightforward. The last piece I'll say is that you'll start to see some changes in our documentation and in the product that we will be referring to the on-prem product as Runbook Automation Self-Hosted going forward. Yep. This change has already taken place on our pricing page, so you'll see it there as well. But for simplicity's sake, as well as again just aligning with kind of the industry standards and expectations, both products will be referred to as Runbook Automation, but the on-premise will now be referred to as self-hosted. So you'll start to see changes in various places to reflect that.
Yeah. So no product changes on that level. It's just basically rebranding the different products just to make it easier to understand. It's actually one of the questions I get like all the time is like, well, there are like a lot of options for us. Can you explain the differences in what's up with the names? And so, it's good that we are taking also this direction on trying to simplify. Yeah.
One thing I'll note also behind the logic of this change is that we've put in considerable effort to bring feature parity between the cloud and the self-hosted product. There are still some differences. We still don't allow you to execute arbitrary scripts on our infrastructure in the SaaS product, but with all the investments we made into the runner and distributed automation, use case feature parity is
Yep.
effectively equivalent. So we want to make the choice of which to use not be based off of which use case you're looking to use the product for.
Exactly.
And so the naming can reflect that as well.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to mention, Jake, regarding potentially like new upcoming features? I know you already touched a bit on that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today, or?
Continuing the encouragement to give us feedback and engage, and if you have the will and the desire to contribute, whether that's to our open source documentation, the open source project, or a number of open source plugins that we do still support and maintain. So there's like the SSH plugin that I showed earlier. That's an open source plugin, but we maintain it and fix bugs and CVEs and all of that. So there's kind of a large swath of plugins and product surface area that and documentation that the community can contribute to and provide feedback on. So always encouraging engaging with us.
Yeah, perfect. And for like anyone interested in or eventually using the runners today and wants to experiment with these project-based runners, you can definitely subscribe to the early access. The links are on the chat. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Jake, once again. And yeah, see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.